What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan and I am back with another edition of the betting show. And you know what? This is the perfect week for a Sheehan Show betting show, because what do we have? We've no UFC, we've no Bellator, we have PFL, and we have one championship. The two promotions I have been covering week in and week out here on the Sheehan Show for the last 2 years. So who better to give you bad bets on these than me? So that's what we will, we will attempt to give you good bets. We'll see on that next week. But yeah, I'm here and I want to talk about a few of these fights. And there's a few interesting fights. One or two I think I've picked out that are pretty good in terms of prices. So we will go through them and we will let you know what to bet on. Do you know what? I don't need these earphones. Let me take them off before we get started. There are two very interesting cards. I'll be honest with you. The one championship card in terms of high end prime fighters is probably slightly better. The PFL card in terms of the quality and quantity, especially the quantity, I suppose, because there's so many fights on it, of prospects. It's not just better than this, it's better than most cards you'll ever see. It's top quality if you're looking for prospects from a region and the UK and Ireland, but also further into Europe. This might be one of the best cards ever in terms of a prospect card. This is a card I think you look at, and I said it on my preview for that show, in 5 years' time, you could see a few champions, you could see a few different things coming from this. If you haven't seen my preview for that show, if you haven't seen my preview for the One Championship show, please check them out. They're already up and posted here on Sherdog.com, so check them out. I've actually made one big change in my picks from them, and it's going to be one of my bets, so stay tuned for that. Just to hit on last week, I don't really want to hit on last week, to be honest. Now, I was, as people might know, I was at the Bellator card last week, so I didn't get a chance to see the UFC live. I've only kind of seen highlights, so I haven't even seen these full fights live. Do you know what? They didn't happen. These fights never happened. These bad bets were never given. But yeah, we had a few good weeks in a row, but last week certainly wasn't one of them. We only hit one of our 4 bets, and that was Bryce Mitchell at -175. Fiziev, unfortunately, that was an injury, so we can maybe write that one off a little bit. Collier and Kavanagh as well didn't end up winning. The Kavanagh fight very close. Collier was robbed blind as well, wasn't it? I haven't seen the fight. I don't know. I'm just going to say he was for the sake of my bets. And then the FLIER was a parlay, and although 3 of that parlay won, 2 didn't, so that didn't hit either. But we're back this week, back to winning ways, and we're going to give you a few winners here from both the PFL and from one championship. So let's do it. First bet. So there's a lot of Irish fighters on the PFL card. I'm picking 2 for and 2 against, right? 2 for and 1 against. 2 for and 1 against. So if you call me a bias towards the Irish fighters, I'm picking against an Irish fighter here in one of my bets. So I'm trying to call it as down the middle as I can. The first fighter here, well, she's not an Irish fighter, she's fighting out of Ireland, Valentina Scatizzi. And this is the one I would give if she was fighting out of Ireland, fighting out of America, whatever. I think this is a real interesting price. She's +105 here on the betting. And let me just make sure that is still the price as I was looking at these earlier. Yeah, it is still +105 here. Now, as I said, these, as I say every week, these might change the closer we get to the fights. And John, my great producer, John Brannigan, will usually have the updated prices here when the video is released. So check that out, probably underneath right where I'm talking about right now. But +105 as I look at it here for her fight over at PFL against Greg Ekut. And the reason I'm going for this is based on Scatizzi's, based on 2 things, right? Her well-roundedness and her ability to wrestle hard, right? Mixed with Ekut's ability, which I'll talk about in a second. But also, I think this price is as close as it is because of the experience levels. Ekut is, 12 fights into her career. Scatizzi's only had 3, and she's only 2-1. You know, it's very, very hard to pick someone who's only 2-1 against someone who's won 7 fights in their career. and it's not to pick someone, but to give a betting line that way. There isn't much, for the bettors to go on. There isn't much for what way would you put it? The betting companies to go on, the handicappers, whatever you want to call them, to make these lines on. But I've talked to a few people from SPG, and obviously I think I did an interview here with the champ over in Invicta, Danny McCormick, and they've all said this is not behind the scenes or anything, they've said it on interviews and different things, that Valentina Scatizzi is a very good fighter, and you can see large glimpses of it in some of her fights. So let's say she had 1, 2 or 3 more fights, and this was maybe a 4-1, 5-1, I think she might be closer to minus 200, maybe minus 250 in a fight like this against someone who we've seen a lot of before. Now, when I say we've seen a lot of great, she doesn't fight that often. I think she's a little bit undersized for the division. She's a good jab and a good 1-2, but she doesn't have the best takedown defense. She's not the best on the ground. When she gets on top, she's good, and that might be an issue because I think Scatizzi showed in one of her fights she can get rolled a little bit and end up on the bottom, but I think if she does get on top first, I think Great will find it hard to get on top of her. And I really think that's the winning and losing of the fight. I think if Shevchenko, Valentina, you know why I meant that. I was like, if she can get the takedown, if she can get on top, I think she can win that fight, right? But as well as that, if she can take away the jab, if she can take away the 1-2, not make that a factor, even if it is on the feet, I think she has a great chance of winning this fight. And like, this is basically, it's plus 105, so it's basically a straight up in terms of the odds, although it's minus 138 for Great, so she's obviously more of a favorite there to make the bookie some money. But I think it should be definitely the other way around based on what we have now. And I think if it was a little bit different in terms of having more fights under her, I think she would be a bigger favorite. And that's kind of why I'm going for this. Like Scatizzi, she looked pretty good in her last win over Lizzie Jeevers even. And she, it was a split decision, but it was a 15-minute fight that she kind of needed, I think, for someone who, in her previous 2 fights as a pro, was finished in the first round. She'd only 1 fight go to decision as an amateur as well, and I think that'll stand to her, and I think she'll be better here. I think if she gets that early takedown, she gets on top of Ekut, I think we're onto something good there, and I like that price, plus 105. That's bet 1 of the week for Valentina Scatizzi. Bit of Irish bias there. Bit of Irish bias for the next one too, but I think this is based on fact more than feeling, if you want to put it that way. And I'm going for Frans Mlambo at plus 140. Now, I said it to Frans myself. I interviewed him here. If you haven't checked out that interview yet on Sherdog.com, please check it out. Not many people have, but it's a good interview. Frans is a great character and all, but so I would urge anyone to please check it out. And I said it to Frans on that this is a fun, even fight. And when I said that, I meant it, but I also meant kind of like an even fight that you'll probably be this kind of the slight favourite for. I was thinking maybe minus 150 for Frans, maybe minus 175, something like that. But for him to be plus 140 and his opponent to be minus 188, that's the reason I'm betting on this. That's the reason I'm giving this as one of my bet. This is, maybe this is a thing for today, because I'm giving you a few what I see as value bets, what I see as price bets. Sometimes I give it to you based on this person's definitely going to win the fight. This is not necessarily one of those. This is a relatively even fight. And look, it's a relatively even price as well. Don't get me wrong. It's not massive. But I think that what I think it should be to what it is, I think that's too big. I think that's too much of a move. I think Frans should be favoured. I think he has shown in his career that he's able to reach a higher level so far than his opponent Francesco Nuzzi has reached. Although he is very good as well, and he's 10-1. Don't make no mistake about that. But Frans has been in there, and he's beaten some very good guys. He's beaten the likes of Corey Tate. He's beaten the likes of Dominic Wooding, Nathan Grayson. He went to. He was beating Ricky Banderas. He got caught in that fight, absolutely. But that sort of level of fighter, and the people he was thrown in against over in Kombatch is global as well. I think, you know, if you're to look at Newsy's 10-1 record, you know, he's fought some good guys, but there's no one hops off the page at you with a standout name like Frans has on his. So, and that's not the winning and losing of every fight, right? It's not who you fought, it's who you are as a fighter. But having said that, at the same time, I do think Frans has a great ability to beat someone like Newsy. Like, he's a fast, accurate southpaw, right? I wonder, a guy who's been around SBG for a long time, wonder would he have any experience sparring and fighting against fast, accurate southpaws? I think he might a little bit. And, you know, as I talked to Frans about it, he was a main training partner for McGregor for the flight fight and many other fights before that. And if not the main training partner, one of the main training guys. And he's trained a lot with Conor and been in SPG for a long time. So southpaws are very hard for people to deal with a lot, but, you know, is he going to be a better southpaw than Conor McGregor, who he's used to dealing with? You can make your mind up for that. I would say for Newsy as well, like, these two are not dissimilar. And I think the point I was making about the higher level, I think in a fight like that, I think the experience against the higher level might just tell. Because, like, Newsy has met someone like, Frans has met someone like Newsy before, but has Newsy met someone like Frans? Someone who hits hard, moves well, is hard to hit himself, is very fast, is good defensively. Now, sometimes Frans, if you go for a big takedown, he'll jump on a guillotine and things like that, and maybe Newsy will play into that, but he's more of a striker too. And I see a lot of movement in this, and I see a lot of trying to impose your will on this. And Newsy is the power striker, right? And he could do to Frans what Bandejas did to Frans and catch him with a big shot. But that's not really happened other than that in Fran's career. He is the one who's been able to use his speed, get land the shots that matter and kind of move around against. And this is another guy who kind of moves around. Like, we can almost rule out the takedowns in this. Like, Frans has good takedown defense up until he kind of goes for that guillotine, and we're like, oh no, Frans, not again, type of thing, as a biased Irish person watching it. But he can defend the takedowns. I don't think Newsy will be going for takedowns. Like, he doesn't have the best takedown defense himself, and he's good for, you know, he goes for subs and he's good for sweeps and stuff, but he throws capoeira kicks. He's going to want to strike with Frans. Frans is going to want to strike with him, and I think it's going to be a real good fight. I just think the speed, accuracy and defensive ability of Frans Mlambo is going to make that plus 140 bet look very nice. So I'm going for that in this one. The next bet I'm going for is against the Irish guy, and I'm going for I can never pronounce his name right, but Aleksandrs Chizovs at plus 163 in his fight with John Mitchell. And again, I do think this is a relatively 50-50 fight, and I'm backing this based on the price. So we've taken bias out of it there in the last two fights. If it was the other way around, maybe in the France fight, maybe I do the same, but maybe not necessarily. This one, I think, is almost a dead even fight with one guy at plus 163. I really think that's too much. I think this should be plus 110, plus 110. That's the sort of fight I think here. I think minus 225 for John Mitchell is way too much, I think. Now, I'm not saying that he won't win, but this is, to me, the money bet. I think this plus 163 is an even better money bet than Frans at plus 140, as, you know, the numbers may suggest. But I think it is anyway, regardless. Look, Mitchell, I was talking to someone recently about Mitchell, and they were kind of saying, you know, because he lost one fight, he went out in his next fight and he kind of improved different parts of his game. He was wrestling better, he's better on the ground. And they kind of made the point to me that the next time he fights, maybe people will forget what good of a striker he is. And, you know, we all kind of like, oh, we'll watch the last fight, this guy's a wrestler, or whatever it might be. And, you know, you get where I'm going with that. So there might be a touch of that in this, that we might see a little bit of different things from Mitchell than we're used to seeing, and that could be a big part of it. But I think Chizovs has plenty in the tank, I suppose, to deal with that. Now, I'll say it again, a very, very even fight. A guy who's 7-1 against a guy who's 10-1-1. So the experience level even is quite similar, and all of that. Mitchell has maybe travelled around the world and won a lot, and maybe that'll stand him as well against an opponent like this. But I really do like Chizovs' style as well. He is that power striker. The good work to the body. Mitchell works well to the body himself. I think the biggest issue here, right, and the reason why my bet might go wrong, and maybe, right for the Irish way and right for Mitchell, is I don't think Chizovs has the best takedown defense in the world. And if Mitchell can prey on that, I think that is a big part of winning the fight. Even change things up and try to go for it. But the word I've written in my notes here over his last 2 fights that I've watched is improving. You look at the early fights and it's like, oh, this guy, you have to attack the takedowns. In the more recent fights, or even at times in more recent fights, it's almost like, well, maybe that's not the weakness it used to be, or as open a weakness maybe as it used to be. And if he gets on top of that, it's massive for him. What he's been doing recently, what he's done in a few fights, he's stopped the takedown and get on top, and he's really good on top, lands lots of shots. But what he is a very good striker on the feet, fights in the pocket, backs his opponent up, and then he's very good at cutting off the cage and landing with shots inside, lovely combinations with his pressure. Like, Mitchell's going to have to stop that pressure. He's going to have to take him down, I think, and he's going to have to consistently take him down. And that's where I think the issue might be. Because I think I could see Mitchell winning the first round and then maybe going for a takedown in the second. If Chizovs stops it, I think that's maybe where he could take it on, maybe get the fight finished in the second or third round, or maybe win a decision. But I do think this is the sort of fight, I do think if it does go to decision, I think it'll be close. And when you give me someone at plus 163 in a fight that I think if it goes to decision it will be close, it's hard to turn that down. Mitchell could take him down and get the finish on the ground, but I think Chizovs on the feet is maybe more likely to get the finish. But yeah, as much as it pains me to go against the Irish guy, this is a win-win for me. If we win, the bet is a win. If we lose, an Irish guy won. So it's a win-win for me. But I'm going for Aleksandrs Chizovs at plus 163 over there at the PFL. Right, let's talk about some of these one championship bets. So I have one bet from one championship and then the FLIER as well from one championship. I'm going for my first bet. I'm going for Seo Hee Ham to win at minus 154. I spoke in the previous show and wondered about the prices. Now these are very early prices because the prices are always later for one championship, so these might adjust a little bit. But I saw in 2 places and they were both around this, so minus 154 for Ham. I said in the preview, but I just think it might be a little too soon again for Stamp. We know what Stamp is all about. She's about those quick power shots, those kicks to the body, landing that right hand. When someone gets away from her ability to close the distance with the shots, it's fantastic, and her leg kicks as well. But again, the southpaw thing, and I mentioned earlier, I'm sure Stamp is used to fighting southpaws, but at that level, issues in MMA, I'm not so sure. She's good takedown defense as well as Ham. But her opening up and letting herself getting taken down at times is an issue against most people, but will it be an issue against Stamp? I don't think it will be. So she's good in transitions as well. I think she can get maybe a takedown here against Stamp if she goes for one. She's a very, very fast starter. And I mentioned on the preview, but she turns into kind of a square striker and shortens her jab. I think that's where Stamp will maybe make her inroads if she does in this fight. But the lack of Stamp maybe taking her down will allow her to conserve a bit of energy, will allow her to go and, I described it as a cyclone on the previous show, will allow that cyclone maybe to go into the second and third round. And if that does happen, I think it's a very tough fight for Stamp. Like, Stamp needs to weather that storm. I think she needs to throw in a takedown, honestly, early, even though, you know, Stamp is a very good Muay Thai fighter and a kickboxer and all of that, but I would throw one in there if I was her. I really think that's something she needs to do here in this fight, but I don't think she will. And I think it's a very tough fight for her, and I think Seo Hee Ham will end up getting the win here. And at that price of -154, I like it. I think Stamp would have to be a lot bigger of a price. Her price is +122. I think she'd have to be a lot bigger of a price than that for me to pick her in this one. So I am going for Ham to win in that one. And the flyer of the week is the one I have changed. I released a video and I put it out, and so the Cerillli Elliott fight is the one I'm talking about, and I'm going for Elliott to win by a knockout, right? So the odds for that haven't been released yet. He's around +350, I believe, to win the fight straight up. So I'm going to say +500. Check out the comment section below. Once the actual price comes up, I will update it, but it should be around +500 to win by knockout, and I'm going for that. I said on the previous show, I thought Cerillli, look, Cerillli is a more well-rounded fighter. He's been around for a long time. You know, he can strike with a guy like Elliott. He's shown that in the past. And he's also very good on the ground and very good takedowns and all of that. I think the issue, and talking to a couple of people about it, I had kind of two people say to me, it's like, oh, I think you might be analysing the Cerillli of 2015 and maybe even 2021 and maybe not the Cerillli today. And I went back and I watched a couple of his fights, and I'm thinking, maybe that's fair. Like, he did win a fight in 2021 and he got the finish there. But other than that, you know, he's 40 years of age now. He's only fought twice since 2019, and he lost to Amir Ali Akbari last time out with an elbow TKO. So I'm changing up the pick, and I'm going for the King of the North, 31 years of age, Paul Elliott. He's training in that beast of a heavyweight gym now with Aspinall and you know, did Phil DeFries, the champ over in KSW, and all of those guys there. And a few people have said it to me, like, this guy is good and they expect him to win via knockout. So, you know what? I listen to people and I'm changing my mind, and this is my flyer. I'm going for Paul Elliott, the wild big striker who has won every fight so far via knockout. I'm going for him to get the knockout, and that's my flyer. Around +500. Cerillli will have to, I think, be a lot worse than he once was, but there is a feeling out there that Cerillli isn't what he once was. So I'm changing up the pick, and I'm going for Paul Elliott to win via knockout, around approximately +500. Right, let's run through the odds for the rest of the fights. I will go to one championship first. Cooper and Avetti. Cooper is the underdog there, +114, -156 for Avetti. I do like Avetti there. The Can and Failong fight, as I mentioned on the preview, is very close. -110 for Can. Failong is -123. I think that's just about right. I do like Failong there, and actually do like him at that price, so I would go for that one in there. Loman and Lineker, -112 for Loman, -118 for Lineker. You know, I said in the preview, I'm not too sure about this one, and I'm still not too sure about this one. I will maybe let you decide on it. Let me know in the comment section below who you think is going to win in this fight. But John Lineker's last fight, I was writing him off in the middle of the fight, and then towards the end, John Lineker's back. So we will see, I suppose. Do you know what? I'll go for John Lineker. I'll believe in him, -118. And then we have the two fights I mentioned. Ham -154, Stamp +122, and Cerillli -400 straight up, and plus around, I've seen him in two places, +300 in one place, +350 in another place. So we'll see on that Elliott price, as I said. Anyway, Right, let's talk about PFL and their pricing. We'll run through them pretty quickly. This price is Doumbé and Zebo. Minus 188 is all Doumbé is. And I was a little bit surprised by that. I thought he was going to be like minus 500 or something. That was going to be one of my bets. I kind of backed out and I was like, maybe I'm missing something here. And I know I spoke about it. I watched some of Zebo, and he can fight. He's a well-rounded fighter, and I did say he has a chance to win it. But I do think Doumbé will stop the takedown and knock him out, to be honest. So I both like that price and hate it at the same time. Like it feels that price is just like tempting me too much, but I would bet on that. Since I released the preview, then the co-main event has actually changed. Brad Wheeler is coming in short notice, now taking on the Lazy King, minus 800 for him, so I do think he will win that. We spoke about the Chizovs Mitchell fight. Chanel Dyer is only minus 400. I like that price, plus 275 against Lizzie Jeevers. Maybe you could throw that into Anaka, throw into the parlay and someone else. If you throw a parlay of, let's see, let's do it. Let's see what it is right now. This is the parlay I would throw at you. I would throw Chanel Dyer, Simeon Powell, and Dakota Decheva, and it's only minus 210. We'll throw Ali Taleb in as well, plus 101. There you go. There's a 4-way parlay. That Ali Taleb price, though. Let's talk about that fight next. That price is way too high. And what I mean by maybe too low is he's minus 275. I think he should be around minus 150 maybe. I do not like that price at all. I hate it. I do think he'll win. I think he is one of the top prospects. But Khurshid Kakarov is a real top prospect also. That's a way closer fight than that is. Plus 200. I would have given you that as one of my bets, but I honestly don't think he'll win. I believe in Ali Taleb so much, but that price is crazy, I think. I do not like that price at all. The other ones I mentioned, look, it should be an easy night for Simone Powell. It should be an easy night for Dakota Decheva. I like the Salamoni Indo fight. A little bit surprised that Indo is such a big underdog, or a big favourite, at minus 200, but I think he should be just about the favourite. We talked about Ekut Scatizzi, and we have obviously talked about the Taleb fight. Luigi Vanderimi, who fought Paddy Pimblett, if I'm not mistaken, he's a favourite, minus 200 here. Dylan Tuke, the other Irish guy who I didn't mention earlier on, he's the underdog at plus 140 over Jacob Kazuba. The way Dylan Tuke fought the last day, I don't know if there's anyone in this tournament he should be an underdog against. If you can fight that way again, I think he will win. But Kazuba is a very good fighter. I think that line is just about right. But I wouldn't at all be surprised if Tuke made the line look foolish on Saturday night. Obviously, we spoke about Nuzi Mlambo. And we spoke about the Decheva fight as well. So those are the bets for the week and the two big cards this weekend. Let me recap my 5 bets. I'm going for Valentina Scatizzi plus 105 to win her fight over in the PFL. I'm going for Frans Mlambo plus 140. I'm going for Aleksandrs at plus 163. I'm going for Seo Hee Ham at minus 154 over in one championship. And I'm going for Paul Elliott to get the knockout at approximately plus 500 over in one championship also. All right, everybody, please bet responsibly. Don't bet more than you can afford, and even bet way less than you can afford. Take it handy. Enjoy the fights. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.